Hey guys, Shidinkai here, and today I'm really excited to post up my review of another Forces of Valor 1x700 scale warship. And this time, I'm going to be looking at the BB-63 Missouri. Now, maybe it's my American bias here, but I absolutely love the Iowa-class battleships. In fact, they may be my favorite warships of all time. Now, before I talk about the model itself, as usual, I want to talk about the ship beforehand. And really, guys, there's not a whole bunch of history to go over just because if I keep things isolated to its World War II configuration, as you see here, it didn't really take part in too many missions. And that's because it was laid down in 1944 and didn't even see action until January in 1945. So now, this ship was actually a pretty big ship. It was 887 foot in length. It had a 108 foot beam, which just barely allowed it to pass through the Panama Canal. It carried a very impressive array of 9 16-inch guns. Now, these guns were incredibly powerful. Even though the Yamato is known for having the most powerful guns ever mounted on a warship, the Iowa-class guns aren't too far behind. They fire at a higher velocity than the 18-inch Yamato guns, and the shell weight isn't too much lighter. So yeah, you definitely did not want to be on the receiving end of these guns. And it also had quite a few 5-inch guns. I believe it had around 20 or so, and had over 100 different types of anti-air weaponry, making it probably the most capable anti-air warship ever made during World War II, at least. So to keep things short, the camouflage that you see right here is actually its Atlantic colors configuration. So this is when it was doing sea trials into Chesapeake Bay. And it didn't really have too much action in World War II. When it first hit the scene, it was escorting a bunch of carriers and actually was credited with shooting down a few Japanese aircraft. In April, it was actually hit by a kamikaze, and apparently it didn't really do much of any damage to the ship. And in fact, the pilot remains were found, and the pilot was given a proper burial because the captain at the time figured, hey, this guy did the best he could, so they honored him in a very cool and respectful way. Now, probably the most dangerous mission that the Missouri ever took part in was the shore bombardment at Kyushu, or however you say that. And Admiral Halsey was actually on board the Missouri at the time, and he admitted later on that this is probably the most scared he ever was during the war because they had no air support at the time, so they were terrified that Japan was going to launch a pretty big assault against the battleship group. But that never happened, and the Missouri steamed southward to do more shore bombardment missions until the war ended. And as a lot of people know, the Missouri was the very place where Japan surrendered to the United States in September, I think it was September 2nd in 1945. So, with that being said, guys, let's talk about the models themselves. And maybe I lucked out, but Forces of Valor did a fantastic job with this model. The paint scheme is just absolutely spot on. The look is spot on. The workmanship is... it's not perfect, but I tell you what, it's definitely very satisfactory here. So this was the first Missouri that I ended up buying, and I think this was released in 2012-ish or so. I think I bought her in 2014, just before it went out of stock. But yeah, this is just a fantastic model, and you can pick her up for as low as $40 at some sources, and that's brand new. So yeah, just an absolutely wonderful job. Let me show off the other Missouri that I have, and this one is going to be in the paint scheme that was on the ship during the surrender of Japan. And again, it just looks absolutely fantastic. I love the fact that you can move the guns up and down. You can actually even move the 5-inch guns right here, which is pretty cool. And yeah, it just looks, well, it looks great. So as always, the bottom hull is die cast and the rest of it's going to be plastic. I'm very lucky that my ships had no real workmanship issues to them, unlike some of the others that I've purchased from Forces of Valor. Now, there are going to be some very minor differences in these ships, and it's almost all completely paint. In fact, it is completely paint. Aside from the obvious paint job, I notice here At the very base of the turrets, you have a silver color, whereas on this ship, it does not have a silver color. Also, with the aircraft, here they're entirely blue with no real distinction for the canopy, whereas here, we're going to notice that they took the time to paint silver for the canopy to at least indicate that it's actually there and that it's glass. So there's going to be some subtle differences here, but otherwise, guys, these are fantastic ships. I absolutely love the Missouri. It's really awesome to have this ship. And as an aside, I actually am very lucky to have the BB-64 Wisconsin only about an hour from where I live. And I got to see it only once in person. And let me tell you, seeing that ship in real life is just something else. I mean, these models kind of look small, but when you see it in real life, it's like, holy crud, man. It's ridiculous, especially the guns. It's just, you look at that and you're like, yeah, this whole thing about there being immunity to shells like this, I don't know if I believe it, because when you see these guns in real life, you just have a tough time imagining real world armor resisting a shell like that. But anyways, that's another topic for another day. Otherwise, Forces of Valor did a fantastic job with these models. If you like this ship, or if you love the ship like I do, you must absolutely buy this, especially while you can. So with that being said, guys, thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.